Okay, so we'll start with the basics of, have you always wanted to work in the IT industry? And I guess following on logically from that would be, what has your career path been to date, whether that was, pre-IT industry or it's always been in the industry? Yeah, if you can give us some background on that.
Of course, Phil. I have actually always wanted to work in IT. When I was a kid, I loved technology. I loved playing with computers. I went to university and did maths. But I didn't want to work in kind of pure theoretical place. I wanted to work definitely somewhere applied. So I wanted to get into IT. I chose to go into technical consulting, so I wasn't just a developer sat in a darkened room. And by accident, I fell into consulting in and around data software. And from there, I kind of grew throughout the roles. So I did consultancy for 4 years. I loved the consultancy aspect because for me, it was the perfect blend of technology, but also applied out to the business area. So I got to learn a lot of business as I was going, but also got to be very hands-on with the technology. And since then, I have just continued to work in IT roles, and my career's grown throughout.
Okay, and the data aspect of that, is that still your main focus, or have you sort of broadened out at all?
Yeah, no, it's still all around data. So I fell into data completely by accident, as I said, but I really, really started to enjoy it. I would have thought data had been really boring before I worked into it, but it tells the complete story of what a business is doing, how your business is performing and how you're getting along. And you need really good tech to get that data right and to learn and to understand it. So yeah, I've stuck with data.
And just to finish on that point as well, I guess you're in particular demand at the moment because the world and his wife is beating a door. Data analytics, big data was a thing a year or so back. Everyone is caught me on to the fact that data is the lifeblood of virtually any business, particularly if you're working towards some kind of digital transformation.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So I was really lucky when I got into the data space. It was just starting to grow. And since then, cloud data warehousing has taken off. And as you say, people are starting to understand the value of what data can bring to a company. That was really brought on by the Moneyball story, the story of the baseball team who got the coach to use all the data to see how successful they were. And data is just continuing to grow in all organizations. And I'm really keen to be involved in that and help companies grow and develop.
Okay, and in terms of your career path, I mean, have there been any challenges along the way? And bearing in mind the sort of focus for the interviews I'm doing, would you attribute any of those to your gender, or have they just been more general, typical career obstacles that you've had to address?
Yeah, I think everyone's had challenges in their career. But I think the biggest one for me has been a running thread throughout, and that is having enough belief in myself to know that I was good enough, to know that I deserve to be doing what I'm doing and I deserve to be where I'm at. I think this was exasperated as I had children, and that I deserve to be kind of a working mum, and I deserve to be in the working world, and I deserve to be working in IT, and also be a parent. And there's a famous stat. The stat is that men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the criteria, and women will only apply if they meet 100% of the criteria. And I definitely feel that with me, that maybe my gender was an issue, and that I just had to have that belief in myself. And maybe if I'd seen more people like me at the level I'm at, or at more senior levels, that would help me give myself more belief.
Okay, and just as a matter of interest, I mean, you don't have to answer, but did you encounter any sort of individuals who either helped or hindered you when it came to that self-belief, or did you have to work it out for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So Matillion as a company has helped me an awful lot. Matillion has a challenge to kind of recruit and encourage diversity in the company. We have a value that is a we care value. We have a women in tech group within the company where we can go and we can talk to others and we can support each other, get to kind of where they want to be, or where they deserve to be. So I've definitely had a lot of help from that industry, that area. I have had some challenges from various individuals, but I won't go into the details of that.
That's fine. And in terms of the sort of flip side challenges, rewards as well, you've talked very enthusiastic about it. It sounds like you enjoy what you do, but have there been any particular awards, or are you just generally enjoying your job and what you do?
Yeah, I do genuinely really enjoy the job. I think IT is a really interesting area and there's a lot of rewards available for it. I think for me personally, I work with great people. I work with lots of really intelligent people that challenge me on a daily basis. I do lots of interesting work. As I said before, I kind of work between business and technology. I get to work with cutting edge technology, which I really, really enjoy. And the great thing about IT is providing you've got a laptop, you can pretty much work from anywhere. So it's really flexible, so it can work around your life. But the biggest reward for me, I think, in what I do today is that I get to work for a company whose values mirror my values.
Okay, and in terms of your career to date, have you noticed a change in attitude? Well, first of all, a change maybe in profile of who works in the IT industry. I mean, I know myself, that the male, pale and stale is perhaps a bit of a cliche, but that is, how it's often characterized. So have you seen that changing at all? And specifically, again, because of what we're talking about, the role of women or the number of women in the industry, what are your sort of observations about that?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a really positive change in that area, actually. So I think there's a lot more we can do, but there's certainly been a positive change. When I first started, it felt like anyone more senior than me was a male, and women did the office manager, the secretarial roles. Maybe they did some of the entry-level roles actually in IT, maybe like the help desk roles, but they did less of the consultancy, less of the management, less of the kind of high-level roles. And now that's starting to change. We're seeing a lot more initiatives to get women into tech. So the AWS Returners program is a great example. Ada Lovelace Day has really helped for encouraging and supporting women to get into tech. And I see lots more females in middle management and getting up to the leadership level. I think there's more to do, but we are seeing a lot more positive change in that area.
Okay, and in terms of the more to do, I know it's quite a big sort of topic to pin down in a couple of sort of phrases or whatever, but have you got any thoughts as to where improvements might be made?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing that I think can really help is that Ada Lovelace Day is stopped being supported now. They've announced that the last day was this year, and that's because there's not enough corporate funding behind it. So I think we need to keep going with initiatives like that. I think we've got a lot of the right initiatives, but we do need to keep going with them. There's a perception that getting the women into STEM is a problem that's been solved, and I don't think that's the case. I think we are, as I said, at the beginnings of the right path, but we need to continue to support it. As individuals in a company, we need to continue to support women at whichever level they're at, and a big focus of that is on other women. But I also think that we need lots of corporate initiatives such as the Ada Lovelace Day to provide that high level oversight and also to provide the support for those who need it.
Okay, and in terms of folks who are maybe looking at going into IT, whether that might be girls, coming towards the end of school and thinking what next to do, or women looking at a career change, have you got any advice as to how to go about a career, what sort of things they can do? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there are so many different opportunities for careers in IT for whoever you may be. And I think that in order to assess and see whether you would like these opportunities, the best way to do it is to go and try some of them. You could go on something like Udemy and do a free course, or you could go on and do one of the AWS certifications, or you could just come to a company and do an internship or do some work experience at those companies. And I think the most important thing is to try a lot of areas. And going back to what I was saying about values earlier, find a company that really suits your values. If you get to a company that does something that you like, then even if you're not quite in the right role in that company will support you to get to where you need to be.
Okay, and just on that point, I mean, is it reasonably obvious, do you think, for people to find those companies, or is it only by joining you then discover, or do companies sort of promote, or is it easy to find out, so whether you go to their website or whatever to get a pretty good idea of whether they are inclusive and diverse, or perhaps looking a little more old-fashioned, shall we say?
I think to find the right companies often put their values on their websites. I've mentioned the values a couple of times, but for me, they're really key. I think if they're not sharing those values, that probably tells you enough about the company. To find the initiatives is often quite harder, and I think companies can do a lot more to support finding those initiatives. I know that people go to regular meetup groups. We at Matillion, we support meetup groups in our local area. So you could go to some of your local meetup groups around maybe a topic of particular interest to you. I know there's lots of groups on LinkedIn as well that can help. So you could join those virtually if you weren't able to get one in person, and maybe try and find opportunities that way. But I do think that maybe there is more that we all could do to direct people to the right opportunities and help you find the right thing.
Okay, and maybe just as we finish off, again, it perhaps unfair to ask you just for one, so maybe one or two, but if there was anything you could change about the IT industry, and whether specifically again for for the role that women have in it, or just more generally things that you think need changing, be fascinated to know what your thoughts are.
I think there's definitely an opportunity to increase diversity across the IT industry. So not just around supporting getting more women into IT, but creating more diversity in general. On top of the diversity aspect, I think IT is a really, really exciting career, as I've said. I think the stress levels in a career such as IT can be quite high. So I think finding the right work-life balance for people who are working in IT, particularly women who are working in IT but have other areas that they have to support in their personal life, and finding that balance to support maybe working women who are also mothers, or working women who are carers as well, finding the right balance to provide that support to allow them to maybe do part-time working so that they can still do their job, they can still add benefit to the company, but they can still do what they need to do in their personal life.
Okay, and just perhaps a quick follow-up on that. Do you think that the experience of us all during the pandemic, I mean, it's to call it a silver lining, perhaps an exaggeration, but do you think the more flexible and hybrid way we've all got used to working is a benefit for yourself and IT workers, as you say, maybe women that have got various responsibilities they're juggling? Has it made life a bit easier from that point of view?
Yeah, so I think the pandemic was fantastic for supporting remote working and hybrid working. I was really lucky in that I worked for a company who always allowed me to work remotely as and when I needed to. But the pandemic has allowed us to completely open up our hiring from being based in the northwest of the UK out to the whole of the UK and even recently Europe. So we've increased our talent pool massively. And we've allowed those who maybe don't want to be commuting into an office on a regular basis to feel more comfortable about asking to work remotely, or just working remotely. It's just a given that they can do. So I think that works really well. But I do like the hybrid model of where you've got the opportunity to go into an office for a day or two a month, or even a day or two a week, whatever works well for you, to collaborate and work with individuals. So I think that was a real high point of the pandemic.
Okay, well, it's been great to chat, Lauren. Thanks for sharing some really good insights with us. So thank you for your time. Thanks.
That's okay. Thank you, Phil. It was a pleasure.